The cost of supernatural living. There is a cost associated with this lifestyle. Now, it's important to understand that it's actually a perceived cost. To our natural mind and to our flesh, it is going to really feel like a cost at some times. It is going to feel painful. But if we can get outside of our natural way of thinking and we can think from heaven's perspective, we will quickly recognize that there really isn't any cost associated in it all, that it's really all for our good and in the end for our greater benefit and for the benefit of others. Philippians chapter 3, verse 7 and 8, this is Paul speaking, "But whatever things were gained to me, those things I have counted as loss for the sake of Christ. More than that, I count all things to be loss in view of the surpassing value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things." And get this, "count them but rubbish, so that I may gain Christ." So what Paul's recognizing here is, you know what? I am suffering many things that are painful to my flesh. But it really isn't a cost. Because what I recognize is that the superior reality of the situation, the gain, the benefit that I'm experiencing and that I'm able to display and show others far supersedes any fleshly, temporary, natural pain or cost that I'm feeling. The Bible tells us to set our mind on things above. Colossians chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. "Therefore, if you have been raised up with Christ, keep seeking the things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God." Set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth. I'm going to go on a little bunny trail here. Setting your mind on the things above. How many here feel pretty just helpless for some of their thoughts and some of their emotions? I have many times in my life just kind of felt overcome by some sense of emotion or some thought that continued to spring up in my mind. Do you know that we actually have the power to set our mind on something? We don't have to remain helpless and hopeless in that situation. We have the power to set our mind. We have the power to set our heart. We have the power to set our will. Now, oftentimes I've recognized that it takes a continual setting. It's not like it just happens, I do it once and I'm good for the rest of the day. I often have to reset my mind on the things of God, but we have that power to set our mind on something. So, in the natural mindset, we will count the cost. Because we are not fully sanctified, because we still have flesh and are still working through sin and are still working through weaknesses, we will feel the tangible cost of living this supernatural lifestyle. It will be evident, you're going to feel it, you're going to experience it. But as your mind continues to be renewed and you continue to pursue the things above, the superior reality, you'll begin to recognize that your perceived pain, what it used to be, is going to be transformed into your authentic desire. Let me share a little example to kind of explain that point. So, a lot of times, this is my story at least, and I've heard it from other Christians as well, praying. Praying tends to be something that's just, it's tough, it's hard. It is a conversation with God, but oftentimes, unless you're one of the extremely lucky and beneficial ones who have heard the voice of the Lord tangibly, oftentimes, you're not hearing it in that way. We're feeling it, and there's many ways that God speaks to us. We talked about that in session 2. But it tends to be a difficult thing that we do. And so a lot of times, people start out prayer with this sense of dread. Ugh, I don't really want to pray, but I know I'm supposed to. So it's this duty. It goes from this point of dread to, okay, I'm going to at least do it. And it becomes a duty that you just say, I'm going to pray. All right? And you begin to do it enough, and it becomes a discipline. It becomes a habit. It becomes something that you regularly begin to do. Here's the key. When that discipline then switches to desire and then ends in delight. Dread, duty, discipline, desire, delight. what's happening there is a renewing of the mind, a transforming of the heart to the things that once were very difficult for us in the flesh to do become a natural desire for us. It's called being sanctified. It's called being formed into the image of Christ. Romans chapter 12 verse 1 says, "Therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice." My wife has been doing something recently where an area of her life that she knows she wants to see just either greater victory or more holiness or whatever in, she has talked to me about her placing that idea, that concept, whatever it is, on the altar to be burned up by the fire of God. I believe that's what Paul is talking about here. We are supposed to sacrifice these fleshly desires, these fleshly things that are really going to actually be painful to us. It's going to result in real pain that you're going to feel. It's part of counting the cost of this lifestyle. But if we sacrifice those things to God, God does something amazing. He burns them up and he replaces them with new desires.